Well, hello everyone, and welcome back once again to Crystalline. Now, last video we made it into the fire temple, so let's just keep going, okay? Hello? There's one wall with some strange symbols scratched on them. They're very faded, and I have to squint to make it out. From what I can make out, 4 symbols surrounded darkness in a square, with a line of fire enclosing the perimeter, trapping the darkness in the center. Huh. I wonder what this is. Amelia glances over, then peers at the carving.
Those symbols represent each of the magical elements.
She points to each one.
There is fire, water, earth, and wind.
Then she points to the center.
And that is shadow.
I've never considered shadow an element before.
It is one of the elemental magics.
Kara, Zack, and Liana have already moved on, so the rest of us hustle to catch up. Besides us, the only other people in the temple are the monks who care for it. They're dressed in woven red robes in the same open and loose style as the villagers from Embermist. Quietly, they shuffle back and forth, sweeping the floor or relighting any of the smaller fires which have burned low.
Hi.
The Pongo looks around in wonder and reverence. At the sight of the giant flame, he squeaks and hops up on me, claiming his spot on my shoulder. Kara bows briefly before the large flame, then leads us to the back of the chamber and stops in front of an empty wall.
We're here!
Zack sighs. Secret passage? Kara might be a little out there, but I don't get the impression that she's stupid. There must be more to the wall than first meets the eye. Is there a mechanism hidden somewhere which triggers a doorway? Kara's eyes glitter.
Bingo!
With her gaze fixed on us, Kara pushes on a brick and a segment of the wall pushes in and swings open. She waves at the opening with a flourish.
Ta-da!
How did you know which brick to push in?
It usually depends, but in this case, there's one brick that sticks out slightly more than the others. If you weren't looking for it, you won't see it.
She heads through the opening and pushes the wall closed behind us. Then she leads us down a winding stone stairway which ends at the beginning of a narrow passage. We file in behind her as she carefully picks her way down the hall. It's a very plain stone hallway with wall sconces lighting the way. I look down at my feet and notice a brick with an X marked on it. Let's just step right on now. I have a feeling this X didn't make its way onto the stone by itself. I better not touch it. Gingerly, I step around the brick. A few feet away, I spot another X. Is anyone else seeing these random X's? Kara glances back.
I should hope so. I left those there so as not to set off the same traps again.
Oh, makes sense. We resume walking. The deeper we travel, the more X's I notice. Wow, there are a lot of traps in here. Zack pauses in front of a corridor where the walls are covered in X's.
Why are there so many X's on this wall?
Kara looks down the same passageway.
Oh, it's a 2-part trap.
She points to a stone on the ground with the same X marking.
Basically, if you step on the ground stone, it triggers thick bars to shoot out from all the X's in the wall and block the path.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Only if you know how to limbo. The bars have something keeping them hot and will burn you if you touch it.
Oh, that sounds worse. Yeah.
And you were able to cross that?
Kara winks.
I am very limber.
Heyo. I expected Zack to brush off her comment like he brushed off every other girl, but he actually looks impressed. Amelia looks between Zack and Kara.
Based on the dilation of Zack's pupils, it appears that Kara's flexibility is attractive to him.
Damn, Amelia. Zack is taken aback.
I was just thinking that it's a useful skill set to have.
Kara has a mischievous glint in her eyes.
Useful skill set to have. In what context?
Zack frowns.
For scouting and navigating. You've done a thorough job mapping this place out and marking the traps.
Liana looks amused.
Zack, was that a compliment?
Aww. He glares at Liana.
No, an observation.
Kara smiles playfully.
Then thank you for the observation.
Zack falls into silence before turning away. I think that's the most I've ever heard him talk in a 30-second span. We continue through the tunnels. Eventually, she stops in front of another well of fire in the middle of the hall.
The barrier's here.
She gestures at the swirling metallic wall behind the well. The way that it glitters as it wisps and curls almost looks like a fire. Leanna and Amelia step closer and inch their hands in front of them before gingerly touching the barrier.
It's surprisingly solid for something that looks so gaseous. Maybe there's some wind magic interwoven with whatever other magic is here.
The Pongo hops forward with stars in his eyes.
Hi.
He dashes straight for the barrier.
Pongo, wait!
I stretch out my arm and race after him. Pongo, no! Instead of running into a wall, the Pongo passes straight through and out of sight. Why, cruel world? How did he go through? How is he able to get through if none of us can? Kara gapes wide-eyed at the barrier.
I have no idea.
No, Pongo!
Leanna looks equally shocked, but for a completely different reason.
We have to find a way to save him. Who knows what could have happened to him when he went through?
She presses up against the barrier and calls out again.
Pongo? Hi?
A blue head pops out of the barrier. What? He hops the rest of the way out.
Boy, boy!
Leanna scoops him up in a hug.
Pongo, you're back safe! Boy!
After a second, the Pongo wiggles out of her arms and rushes back over to me. Leanna pouts, then refocuses on the barrier. Amelia places both of her hands back on the barrier while Leanna holds out her manipulator.
Whatever is beyond this wall hosts a plethora of energy.
Leanna nods.
My manipulator confirms that. No wonder the Pongo ran in there.
Zack continues to hang back and observe, but Kara steps closer to the barrier.
But how did he even pass through?
Leanna shrugs. Amelia continues studying the wall, moving her hands up and down.
I do not recognize this magic.
She frowns, deeply disturbed.
Is there anything you can do to break it?
Let's see.
Leanna and Amelia both put their hands on the barrier, their manipulators glowing. They each transmit pulses of magic which disperse across the surface in a shimmering wave. I think they're trying to create stress fractures to crack the wall. After a few tries, Leanna sighs in frustration, then steps back.
Amelia, stand back.
She wordlessly obeys. Leanna gathers energy at her gauntlet, then strikes the barrier with an empowered strike. Suddenly, golden lettering forms on the barrier. Absolve your world to enter mine. What does that mean? No one answers. Amelia steps forward and focuses on the well of flickering flame.
If I am interpreting this message correctly, we must part with our most precious possession, our world, and throw it in the fire.
Leanna nods thoughtfully.
Kind of like we're freeing ourselves.
Kara's face drains of color and she clutches at her pack.
Are you sure?
Yes.
We stand around awkwardly until Leanna clears her throat.
If that's what we need to do, then it seems easy enough. I'll go first.
Please let me go first. We're doing this for me, I should be the one to go first. Leanna blinks, but I step up to the fire before she can object. What do I choose? Obviously we've got to get rid of the Pongo, right? No. My waifu. The wallet, I guess? I fish in my pockets and grab my wallet. My entire identity is in here. My license, student ID, and credit cards. The thought of parting with it makes my chest hurt. Reluctantly, I toss it into the fire and watch the flames lap it up. Then I steel my resolve and slowly step forward. As I cross through, I feel the tingle of energy and hear the crackle of electricity. There's a bright light blinding my vision, and I have a flashback of my crossing to Terra. My foot lands on solid ground. I pass through the barrier unharmed. Gradually, my eyes adjust to the dim light, and I see that I'm in a cozy room. Oh, hello. In the middle of the room is a fox who swishes its tail as it observes me. Beside it is a beautiful woman with flaming red hair. Her delicate hand rests atop the fox's head. As I look her over, her gaze lands on me. Who are you? Then smiles. For a second, I think I see the flames lighting the room flicker, and a warmth permeates my body. It's pleasant, like an embrace. Although she holds my gaze, she doesn't speak. How did you get in here? Again, she remains silent, but this time she takes a step closer.
Who are you talking to?
Huh? I peek behind the woman and see Zack standing with an eyebrow raised and his arms crossed. The rest of my companions pause in their inspection of the room and stare at me. Kara stands beside an altar while Amelia and Leanna are both kneeling by the fox. The fox accepts their attention, rhythmically swishing its tail, but otherwise makes no move to respond. Instead, it fixes its attention on me.
Are you talking to the fox?
No? I don't think they can see her. I fall silent as the group casts me worried glances.
Who exactly are you seeing?
There's a woman dressed in red, and she's kind of flamey, and she's standing right there with her pet firefox. Leanna looks toward the fox, but her eyes glaze right over the woman. She furrows her brows, concerned.
Okay.
Her voice is gentle, like she doesn't want to spook me. None of you guys can see her? The group collectively shakes their heads. I don't know why you guys can't see her, but I promise you, she's there. The Pongo hops out from behind my legs. He first examines the woman with partial interest, then he stares with wonder at the fox. The fox cocks its head to the side and observes the Pongo. The Pongo perks up and cautiously bounces forward. He pauses right before the fox. The fox's nose wiggles as it sniffs at the Pongo. Then it swishes its tail and the Pongo squeaks before running back behind my legs. Wait, do you see her too? The woman giggles at the Pongo and gently pats his head. He shivers happily at her touch. Then she straightens up and takes a step closer. Her feet don't touch the ground and her skirt floats ethereally behind her. Instinctively, I back away.
What's going on?
She's getting closer. A lot closer! She pauses when she draws near and touches her palm to my forehead. A pulse of warmth flows through me before she retracts her hand. As if something inside me clicked open, I feel invigorated with restored strength. The stronger I feel, the more translucent the woman becomes. Soon, she disappears. The Pongo stares at me with renewed interest. It reminds me of that same look he gave me when we first met. He licks his lips. Don't even think about it. The Pongo pouts and lets out a sad sigh. Kara waves her hands in front of my face.
Hey, are you okay? You kind of zoned out there for a second.
I think I'm fine.
What happened?
I'm not too sure.
Where's the woman now?
Actually, she's gone. Amelia reacts to my words by playing with her bracelets. She holds her manipulator up to me.
Curious. I may have a theory.
What is it?
All the energy which had accumulated here has now gathered within you.
I blink as it takes me a minute to register what she just said. Wait, I absorbed the energy? That can't be right.
As I mentioned, it is merely a theory.
Leanna looks intrigued.
How is that possible?
I don't know. I felt it after she touched me. Leanna's eyes widen.
I wouldn't phrase it like that.
What? What? Not in a weird way. She just touched my forehead and suddenly I felt a rush of energy. Amelia stares hard at me. Why are you looking at me like that?
I am merely anticipating the imminent reaction.
Reaction to what?
The high concentration of energy you just absorbed. The human body was not meant to process such large quantities of energy. At least, that has certainly been the trend with someone from Terra.
Amelia's gaze bores into me as she emphasizes the word Terra. Then she looks back down at her manipulator.
Although, 2 minutes have passed, and there seems to be no sign of an adverse reaction.
Why does she sound so disappointed? Suddenly, Kara squeals as she gingerly picks a rusty coin out of the remains of a leather satchel.
This is a genuine Vestin coin!
Zack glances at the coin and folds his arms, clearly unimpressed.
How much could a rusted out dated coin be worth?
About a few hundred gold pieces.
Zack's demeanor instantly changes.
You don't say.
Kara smoothly pockets the satchel as Zack covertly searches the room. As Kara finishes up her inspection of the room, Leanna looks around.
Well, since we found what we came for, we should head back.
Kara nods and leads the way out. As we leave the room, we notice the fire which had previously glowed in front of the barrier is now gone, but all of our items are still intact. Hey, nothing was burned in here!
Curious. Then it can be assumed that the purpose of this trial was not to destroy our possessions, but to test our willingness to sacrifice.
Okay, but then if someone else wants to come here, if all they have to do is hear from us that their stuff isn't actually going to burn, and it doesn't matter then. It's kind of a dumb trial, but you know, I'm not a fire elemental, so who knows. Kara happily scoops out her coin purse.
I'm not complaining.
Leanna smiles in relief as she reaches in and quickly collects what looks like a ring attached to a thin chain.
Let's keep going.
Oh, is Leanna married? The rest of us snatch up our items and continue back out of the corridor. The trek out of the temple is a lot faster and easier than the trek in, mostly because there were no more obstacles to stop us. We pop out of the same hidden wall in which we entered. Just as before, the main ceremonial hall is empty. We wave goodbye to the couple of monks sweeping the entryway, then begin the walk back to the village. Alright, let's ask Kara who the Vestins were. I fall in step with Kara. So, who exactly were the Vestins?
They were the original tribe of Ember Mist, and the initial keepers of the Fire Temple.
Did they build the temple? Kara shrugs.
It depends on who you ask. Some experts believe they did. Others think the temple was already there by the time the Vestins came about.
Interesting. Now I'm curious. How did you get into treasure hunting? She pauses just a little too long before flashing me her usual cheerful grin.
I just sort of fell into it, honestly. Treasure hunting naturally fit into my nomadic lifestyle.
Where did you learn all the history to even identify relics?
You'd be surprised how much you pick up along the way, especially after you realize what a lucrative business this can be.
So you're just in it for the money?
I didn't say that. I'll admit that at first I was just in it for the money. But the more I learned about the ancient people of Isaria, the more invested I became in the history of each relic I found. I started to find myself daydreaming about who might have used the items I found. What kind of person were they? Did they cherish this item, or was it just another piece of their ever-growing collection of stuff?
That's a cool way of thinking. I've never thought about it like that before. Maybe if I had, I would have paid more attention in history class. Kara looks at me strangely.
Are you a treasure hunter too?
No.
But you sought out experts dedicated to history?
Something like that. It was less me seeking it out and more of a requirement I had to fulfill. Kara looks skeptical but doesn't pry. Okay, let's talk to Amelia about her theory about the mysterious woman. Obviously, it was the fire elemental. I approach Amelia. Like, I'm at risk of spoiling the game, like, it's kind of blatantly obvious, right? She was a woman on fire. Magic. So that theory that you mentioned in the temple about the woman, what was it? Amelia glances at me.
Given the location and circumstances previously described by Elder Issam, my estimation is that the unknown woman you encountered was a projected image of the fire elemental. Of course, as I could not observe her myself, I cannot be certain.
I know, it's a big old mystery. This woman made out of fire in the fire elemental temple. Who could she possibly be? Do you think that's why she wouldn't talk back? Also, why wouldn't she just show up in person?
The amount of energy needed to sustain just an appearance of the elemental would have drained the temple completely. There would have been no energy left for her to give to you.
Is that why she disappeared right after?
The depletion of energy in the temple would have meant she'd no longer be sustained in this world.
Amelia looks thoughtful.
Although, it is quite unusual that she would have you absorb the energy to begin with.
I see. No wonder she was so hot. I had a feeling that was her. I had a sneaking suspicion that was her. I mean, who else could it have been? Amelia nods.
It pleases me that you two have reached the same conclusion.
Yes, it pleases me that my allies are not complete idiots. Thanks. She looks thoughtful.
Still, it is quite perplexing that she would only reveal herself to you.
Yes, it's not just me. The Pongo saw her too, I think. He didn't really make it clear if he was seeing her or just the fox thing.
The Guardian.
Huh?
The fox would be the guardian of the fire temple. Each temple has its own guardian who protects it.
Oh. So how come the Guardian didn't attack us for breaking into the temple?
We did not break in. The guardian enforces the trial in the temple. Only those who are able to complete the trials are welcome into the temple.
In this case, that magical fire we had to put our stuff in? Amelia nods, still deep in thought. Are you still trying to figure out why no one else could see the elemental? She nods again. Any theories?
As of now, I do not have one. But perhaps after some further research.
Her voice trails off as she falls back into deep thought. Kara, Zack, and Amelia lead the way back to Embermist while I lag behind. The Pongo sits on my head. Leanna notices my absence and falls into step with me. She pats the Pongo, who ignores her, still too focused on the energy around me. Leanna pouts, then shakes away the Pongo's disregardance of her and focuses her attention on me.
Something on your mind?
I drop my voice low so the others can't hear me. Now that I've collected the energy from the temple, that means that I can try to create a temporal rift and go back home, right? Kara stops, then whirls around to face us. Zack and Amelia stop with her.
Pardon me, you were speaking very softly and it was a little hard to hear, but it sounded like you just said you need to open a temporal rift to go back home?
No, a temporal rift. It's not chicken.
But that can't be right, can it?
Jeez, this woman's got some supersonic hearing. I glance at Leanna, who looks alarmed. About that? Kara's smile falters at my hesitance, but Amelia looks excited.
I knew it! My hypothesis is correct!
Wow.
Hypothesis? What hypothesis?
My hypothesis that he is from a parallel world.
Leanna's eyes grow wide and she forces a panicked smile.
I think all this parallel world and temporal rift talk has been getting to you. I mean, Elder Isum said it's impossible.
He has already admitted it.
What? Leanna and I have been careful not to say anything. When?
The day of our acquaintance.
I rack my brain but don't remember bringing that up around Amelia.
You sought out Professor Xavier's guidance, and after he imparted his advice, you and Leanna had a brief discussion in which you mentioned that what he had suggested was exactly what happened to you. Thus began my hypothesis that you arrived from a parallel world.
Leanna looks at me, unsure how to react. Alright. What's up with all these eavesdroppers? I guess there's no point in denying it now. If our game of cheat is any indication, Amelia can see right through a lie. You're right, I'm not from Terra.
Not from Terra, huh?
Nope. Zack looks me up and down and nods to himself.
That's a lot better than the alternative.
What's the alternative?
That you might be... unique.
Zack!
He shrugs.
He didn't even know what a discharger was. At least if he's from another world, that explains why he didn't know these things.
Kara looks skeptical.
How did he get here?
There have been unexplainably high concentrations of energy popping up throughout Isaria, and he happened to show up at one of those areas. We went to the Mage Academy to get some answers, and that's how we came up with the possibility that the high energy readings were temporal rifts, and somehow he had traveled through one. Why or how those rifts were even opened, we still don't know.
But if they're the only way for me to get back home, then I have to try to open one. Kara shrugs.
Let's just make sure you attempt to open one far away from where I'm standing.
Okay, my theory. My theory, having not looked ahead, not to any spoilers. Okay, my theory as of right now. I'm gonna have to go to each temple. They're all gonna give me their magic, because the shadow is coming back, and I'm going to be faced with the thing at the end of the game. Either I can go back home, or I can re-imprison the shadow. I do want to see what happens then. Assuming I'm correct, I do want to see what happens if it gives me the option to actually just go back home and let everyone die. I am very curious as to what kind of bad ending that'll give me. But anyway, let's just make sure you open... far away.
That might be tricky considering no one knows how to open one. We may need to talk to Elder Issam.
That won't be necessary. I know how to do so already.
We all stare at her. How do you know that?
The directions are located in Elder Issam's old research notes, which I had gathered from the Academy. The spell itself is a simple conjuration, which even an amateur could do.
An amateur can open a temporal rift? Then why isn't everyone doing it?
The impossibility of the spell comes from the fact that the human body cannot manipulate the amount of energy needed for it.
She pauses, then points to me.
He may be an exception.
I squirm slightly as their gazes fall on me.
Given that you have absorbed energy directly from the temple, which should also be an impossibility, I must assume that there is something within you which can possess the high amount of magic without suffering consequences. Perhaps it is a skill which you acquired from your world.
My world doesn't have magic. Amelia blinks.
Regardless, only a short amount of time has passed. There is plenty of time for you to still internally combust.
Thanks, Amelia. A wave of unease makes my stomach queasy. Maybe I should open up this rift now before that has a chance to happen. Amelia grins with excitement.
I concur with that suggestion.
That may be the best now that you have the magic.
Zack shrugs and Kara takes a look at her open surroundings.
Maybe we should first look for a spot with a bit more cover. We don't want to be opening up rifts on an open pathway.
Good point.
There was some tree cover towards the west.
We mumble our affirmations and follow Zack towards the trees. We settle into the grove of trees. Both Liana and Amelia stand on either side of me. Zack selects a tree far enough away to not be affected by any stray magic, but close enough to get a good view of what's going on. Kara, on the other hand, hangs back towards the outskirts of the trees. Zack looks back at her, an amused smile on his lips.
You'll miss the show from back there. You sure you don't want to come any closer?
Kara's voice is distant.
Yep.
There's a bit of movement as she takes another step back behind a tree. Are you sure you're okay back there?
Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just keeping watch.
Okay, making sure no one actually accidentally stumbles upon us.
Something like that.
Amelia studies the notes, then nods to herself and snaps the book shut.
The casting is quite simple. It is the same technique as any other cast.
Liana looks at me.
Are you ready?
I nod. Amelia glances at my stance, then frowns.
Your stance is incorrect. Straighten your spine.
I lengthen my spine and stand as straight as I can.
Now you are too tense. Keep yourself relaxed, but do not slump.
Okay. I release some of the tension in my back. She's about to speak again, but Liana gently pulls Amelia to the side.
Okay, I think he gets it.
She steps in front of me and gives me an encouraging smile.
Your stance is fine. Just remember to raise your arms in front of you.
I do as she says, and she nods.
Now, the actual casting part is gonna sound tricky. You'll need to focus your mind on the spell you want to cast.
So I should just think about temporal rifts?
Yes, but you need to connect that thought with the magical energy.
Uh...
Clear your mind of every thought.
I close my eyes and push away all of my doubts and confusion and focus on Liana's voice.
Now, think about the rift that you wish to create.
I imagine tearing a hole in the fabric of reality. I don't actually know what a rift would look like or feel like. All I remember is the bright light. Should I focus on that light?
At the same time, sense for the magic within you.
I try to sense for any kind of magic, but nothing feels out of the ordinary. How do I know where the magic is?
It'll feel like a tendril or willing warmth. When you find it, reach out for it and grab hold. The magic is eager to be used and will latch on.
I wish women were more like my Focus on what she says. This is so abstract, but I know I can do it. I just have to focus! I turn within and regulate my breathing. This sounds very similar to meditation, so perhaps using the same technique will yield success. As my breathing becomes slow and steady, I open up my senses for any indication of another presence.
Once you find the magic, connect your thoughts of the rift with the magic, and then channel both the magic and the thoughts through your hands to cast it in the open.
I continue sensing, hoping to find even a hint of warmth. But how do I know if it's just my own warmth or the magic? Sweat beads on my temples as I strain to cast, but nothing happens. Eventually, my arms grow weary and my mind is exhausted. I decompress with a sigh. It didn't work.
It's okay, we can try again. People aren't usually able to cast on their first try.
I mentally groan. The idea of doing all that again does not thrill me. There must still be something I'm missing.
It just takes some getting used to. Plus, you're trying to cast without a manipulator.
Oh yeah, both you and Amelia used manipulators to cast. Maybe that's why I wasn't able to do it.
Well, the manipulator's function is to house the energy source for us to cast with. Technically, because you already have the energy within you, you shouldn't need a manipulator.
Oh.
But this is all theory anyway. It may be easier trying to cast using a crystal, especially for a first-time caster.
Regardless, there could be a multitude of factors for why this attempt was not successful. One for which could be as simple as the fact that you still did not possess enough energy to open the rift.
Shouldn't the temple have had enough?
Theoretically, perhaps.
Theoretically.
But a significant portion of the energy was already being used to sustain the elemental's image. She was able to transfer what was left of the energy to you, which from my readings was only 20% of the total energy in the temple when we started.
Suddenly, Kara is standing right beside us as cheerful as ever.
That sounds like you all still need to explore some more temples.
I jump at her presence. Even Leanna and Amelia seem surprised to see her so close. Only Zack is unaffected. How did you get here so fast? She grins at me.
Am I wrong?
The Pongo jumps out of Kara's arms and hops into mine.
Boy!
I pat him on the head and he wiggles contentedly, licking the air around me.
So it could be that he doesn't know how to cast, or that he doesn't have enough energy.
Sure, but what does that mean for you all in terms of next steps? Are you going to hang out in Ember Mist until he learns how to cast?
It could take him weeks before he can even cast the simplest of spells. That is quite a long time to rely on someone else's hospitality.
It sounds like it would still be in your best interest to visit at least one more temple just to be sure you have enough energy. You can teach him how to cast on the way, so by the time he gets there, he'll be ready to go.
Leanna looks thoughtful.
That does seem like the better option than the alternative.
If it's the fastest way to get me back home, then I'm not opposed to having all our bases covered. Amelia nods.
That is the most efficient course of action. If we can mitigate any uncertain factors, then we can pinpoint where the weakness is and adjust accordingly for a successful cast. The research this will provide will be very informative.
Hearing Amelia's affirmation, Zack shrugs.
Since I'm here to protect Amelia, I go where she goes.
Kara smiles broadly and slings her arms around Zack and Amelia, much to their dismay.
Great. Then our arrangement is still on.
Hey!
Zack moves out of Kara's grasp. She smirks.
Most men would be thrilled to have a pretty woman hug them. Right, Amelia?
That is correct. A healthy physique is inherently attractive for potential mates.
Kara lets go and starts to lead the way out of the forest.
We should spend the night in Ember Mist. We can plan our next steps there.
Once we are in agreement, we follow Kara back to Ember Mist. Upon arriving, we head to the inn.
We can spend the night here. I'll meet you back down in the lobby in a few minutes.
She ventures upstairs while we secure 2 rooms with the innkeeper. As we receive our keys, Amelia excuses herself.
I wish to seek an audience with Elder Issam and continue our discussion. I would be remiss to let such an opportunity pass.
He seems like a good guy, but maybe we keep the fact that I'm not from here a secret?
Yes, that is something in which we are in agreement.
Oh, okay. She nods and leaves the inn. The decor of the inn is very similar to Elder Issam's hut. Pillows and rugs line the ground as a few people sit cross-legged in front of the fire. A few tables line the other side of the lobby, all of which are empty. In fact, aside from the couple of people chatting by the fire, this place is very empty. Once I sit down, I feel fatigue pass over me, but I try to shake it off. I guess they don't see too many visitors here.
For a city that's supposed to be so secret, that's not surprising. It's more surprising that they have an inn.
I nod and stifle a yawn. We sit at a table as Zack orders us dinner. After a few minutes, Kara returns.
Where's Amelia?
She went to speak with Elder Issam. She nods. My eyelids droop and I'm stifling yawns every few minutes. My limbs feel like leaded weights and it's taking all of my effort to sit upright. After I let out a wide yawn, Liana glances over at me.
Maybe you should go to bed. We're winding down anyway, so it'd be a good idea to get some rest.
I nod blearily. That sounds really good right now. I guess absorbing all that energy really takes it out of you, huh? Liana smiles at my joke.
It would seem so.
What joke? Alright. Regardless, I'm grateful for the excuse to leave. I trot upstairs and fumble with the key before opening the door. Then I fall onto one of the twin cots and pass out as soon as my head hits the pillow. Ah. Light filters through the window and gently pulls me out of my slumber. Alright, guys. It's been another half hour. We met a fire elemental. We completely failed to open up a temporal rift, or a temporal rift. I'd say this has been a fairly successful video. We made some good distance. I'm gonna call it here, okay? I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I will see you all next time. Peace out, guys.